everybody. Welcome to Ask The Planman. Everything you want to know about insurance, finance, and more, but we're afraid to ask. I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein, and I have a belief that each and every one of us has a right to proactive planning. Planning makes up so many different aspects of our lives, whether it's tax planning, college planning, retirement planning. What about income planning? What about creating passive income? What about health and fitness planning? We've had many episodes covering all different aspects of planning. And today I'm super excited to have my buddy Rob Stein on today. Rob is one of North America's, I like the way you frame that, North America's leading real estate educators. He's a multiple business owner. He's a former, although I'm going to challenge the former because he's looking super buff, former professional bodybuilder and a mindset coach. I think you need to reverse that in order because I think you're still a mindset coach today. You're not a former mindset coach, right?
Correct.
You're still I caught that. I'm like, we should reverse it. So he is currently a mindset coach. He's also the creator of Impossible to Fail, which is a framework that is kind of what he's branded behind. And he has coached and spoken to over 20,000 people throughout the course of his career. He has a goal to teach people how to think in new ways to achieve their dreams. And he's also got an online training course we're going to talk about called Earth to Orbit. Rob Stein, my man, welcome to Ask the Planman. So I'm curious, tell me more about Impossible to Fail and how you came up with that.
Yeah, Bruce, it's a pleasure to be here. It's great to see you again, my friend. Impossible to Fail boils down to what I believe is a scientific fact that with the right education implemented correctly, it is literally impossible to fail. So to expand on that a little bit, in just a brief bit of my background, I used to be a overworked, underpaid middle school teacher. Now, I got my master's in education, over 20 years of experience teaching and consulting at the highest level. But ultimately, I'm kind of just a typical, 9-to-5er to multi-business owning entrepreneur. If I can do it, you can do it type of guy. And when I was talking to my marketing team last year about the name of my first book, which will be coming out in Q3, titled Impossible to Fail, one of the questions they asked me was, you mentioned I own multiple businesses. So one of them is in music composition and publishing. That was my first business, which I still maintain. Then I got into bodybuilding, did that at a high level. Then I, became a top producing real estate agent, top producing team leader, mindset coach, author, podcast. And they asked, how do I do these seemingly unrelated things all at such high levels? And I said, well, really, I've always just wanted to set it up for myself that it's impossible to fail. And that was kind of just the genesis of how it started. But the Impossible to Fail framework came from the result of my trial and error over 20 years of entrepreneurship. My first business in music composition and publishing took me 8 years to really get it to be extremely profitable, to the point that I could quit my teaching job, making about 50 grand a year, to run my music business, which at that time was building about $250,000 a year. And I was doing that full time. Now that took 8 years. Once around year 5 is when I actually engaged in some mentorship on marketing and just business ownership, because I was a teacher and a music writer. I didn't know anything about business.
Right.
Once I did that, that's when things really took off quickly. So that was the first time in my mind I said, hey, there's something to this mentorship.
Let me just cut in on the journey a little bit.
Yeah.
Was there a reason it took you the 5 years? Was it a hesitation? Was it a lack of knowledge? Because again, our listener who's in that same boat, you and I are very big. We're in the same communities of professional coaches in the business space. So we invest in ourselves. So let's pull the little so what out of that is in those 5 years, was it strictly a not knowing? Was it a not a financial thing? Like what eventually got you there? Do you recall?
That's a great question. I think it was both of those things. Now, when you're a teacher, you're surrounded by other teachers. Teachers are not entrepreneurs. Yeah. Most teachers, not all, but most teachers don't have the entrepreneurial mindset. I felt very isolated in that way. But, in real estate, which I'm in now, it's very common. Coaches are common. Business seminars are common. Entrepreneurial conferences are common. As a teacher, that world is not something I was ever exposed to.
Gotcha.
I didn't even know there were conferences of entrepreneurs to go to. Like it just right. just wasn't part of my world. And so my business was developed out of passion. I didn't say the world needs this business in marching band, composition and publishing. I said, this is what I have a passion for, and I want to figure out how to make money doing it. And there were literally at the time, it's a very niche thing that I do in that world, but there were literally like 2 people at the time that were doing it at a high level. And I just tried my best to emulate what they did without even knowing them or having any type of relationship with them. I just saw from the outside and tried my best in my own head to reverse engineer it. So it was just a ton of trial and error. I didn't have money to invest at the time, really. I was teaching. My wife was still in college at the time. So, I think it was a little bit of both. And I also didn't have the right mindset around money at the time either. I should have invested in marketing earlier, but I didn't really know how, and I was afraid to. I had that scarcity mindset about money.
Right, scarcity and limited beliefs. Yeah.
But it was actually around that year 5. I was grossing about 30 grand a year, maybe netting about 17 to 18 grand a year while full-time teaching. And I said to myself, this is not sustainable. I gotta, shit or get off the pot, so to speak. Like, I really need to build this thing, or I need to shut it down because I can't have 2 full-time jobs, one of them not really being profitable.
Right.
And it was actually around that time that I had wound up developing a relationship with one of the 2 people in the world that was really doing this at a high level. And I asked him, how did he scale to become so profitable and well-known? And he told me exactly what he did from a marketing perspective. It was regarding direct mail. And I thought that was number one. I was so shocked that he told me. Because now, as a coach or a mentor, if I see someone trying to come up and I see their intent about it and they ask me a question, of course I'm going to help them and ask them. Of course I would. But at that point in my life, I was like, man, this is like top secret. He's probably not going to tell me. He told me exactly what he did.
But
I did that same thing. I just literally followed his blueprint, did the same thing, went from like 30 grand to like 80 grand to 150 grand to 200. And it just, within the next couple years, things really scaled quickly. And then I also took it upon myself to say, hey, I think I need to learn how to run my business like a business.
Yeah.
And I just learned the basic practices of like, I need a CRM and I need to stop running my whole business off of an Excel spreadsheet. And I need to hire someone to help with these kind of things.
I want to go back. You said like you were shocked that he let you behind the curtain like Oz, right?
Yeah.
And so I think society is such, it's kind of like the crabs. You ever see like a bucket of crabs and they're trying to get out and they're climbing to the top. And the habit of the crab is the other crabs are always pulling the ones at the top back down. Like they're not allowing them to get out, even though if one would get out, then all of a sudden they could all get out and they don't realize. And so that, the crab has its own limited belief, right? Like you can't go there. So your reaction in the sense is like the crabs is like, well, why would this guy give me that? Like it's a very limited scarcity type of thing. And because you're looking at it, and this is the cautionary tale to my listeners out there, is you can't be afraid to share and collaborate, even somebody who you might have deemed to be a competitor. And Rob saying here is like, I saw this guy as a competitor. Why would he give me his secret sauce? Why would he tell me these things? But you know what? There's plenty to go around. And so we've got episodes talking about the gift of giving, the laws of increase, and, you give to get. And so you're helping somebody else build their business. I'm sure that person got some pleasure in seeing you succeed, but guess what you're doing? You elevated to a point where now you're trying to put your hand out to help others as well. So it increases everybody's abundance, not just that one person. So, and I can tell you, I came out in that sense too in the Wall Street world. Like none of the senior stockbrokers wanted to help the young guns because we were straight competitors to them. Like our business could have been their business and they don't want us to succeed. They'd rather have us fail and then take over the little bit of client crumbs that we actually got. So that's how we kind of came about. So
and I think and it's very common, you see this all the time in the entrepreneurial world, but I think when you reach a certain level of success, you're not, I think partially you're obligated, but I think a lot of people just feel compelled to give back because we remember what it was like when we were in the growing stages, desperate for information and knowledge and guidance. And we all usually have someone that gave it to us. And we know how impactful it was to us. And so we want to help pay that forward. I don't think there's anything more noble than that.
Well, there's people. Certainly, there are people that are selfish. But if you really go back to caveman mentality, nobody survived. Nobody survived on their own. It was a pack.
That's right.
As limited as they were, education or anything else, if the pack didn't stay together, they were going to perish. And so, our society, we've become so abundant in physical human beings, but it's become a very selfish, guarded, off-putting society. And then there's people like you, and I hope I'm viewed that way, as in a very uplifting and giving way, is, look, we help people all the time, whether we get compensated or not. Like, there's just education to give and to help people. So, I'm here to lead in that regard, and then it'll find its way back. I'm never worried about that.
Absolutely. So once I actually got that guidance, things really took off, and I was able to quit my teaching job and be a full-time entrepreneur. And talk about the crabs. I mean, when I told my fellow teachers I was leaving teaching to be a full-time entrepreneur, it was all, what are you doing? How could you? Why? You have pension,
10 years.
Stick in it for 30 years. Maybe you'll get up to 75 grand a year.
Ooh.
Like, why would you do this? And I was like, how could I not? Like, these are the same people that complain about their job every single day, but aren't going to do anything about it. But for sure, it was a little scary to cut off those golden handcuffs of even though it was a low consistent paycheck and benefits. But also at the time, my wife had graduated college. She got at a teaching job at one of the best schools in the state. And so she had consistent money. She had great health benefits. And that really gave me the confidence, to build to go full time.
You still had a little base.
Yeah, into business ownership.
And now, correct me, you were still in New Jersey, right? Because you and I have Jersey roots. You were still in New Jersey.
Right.
And then, so your wife finished school, and then, go ahead. I know you eventually moved to Texas. But
yeah. And so she was a full-time teacher. I was running my music business full-time. I used to be quite out of shape. And that was the time I decided, something's got to change. And eventually tried a bunch of things. Running didn't work, I went to the gym a couple times. I had no idea what I was doing. Eventually, I found P90X, Tony Horton. God bless Tony Horton.
Tony Horton,
revolutionized the home fitness industry, but saved my life for sure. And I got in shape. I lost about 80 pounds.
Wow.
And then eventually got in the gym. And once I decided to compete in bodybuilding, I was like, let me hire a coach. I don't know what to do. Coaching and mentorship. There's something to this. And within 2 years, I went from a total amateur to getting my pro card and winning bodybuilding competitions.
Nice.
Once I decided to start competing. Eventually, I got into real estate investing with my father, because he's been in the industry his whole career. He's still in the industry. And that was the first time I ever hung around other entrepreneurs. It was awesome. So my dad one weekend.
So growing up, was your dad a realtor?
He was. He was a real estate agent and managed one of the top offices in his company.
So even seeing that as a child growing up, you didn't necessarily kind of have your eye out looking, or maybe just
no. And I'll tell you why. Money was super tight growing up, and my dad was always stressed about money. Being an agent at the time, he worked his butt off, but also just like the area we lived in the market.
Yeah.
The houses he was selling.
It was the 70s, right? It was probably the 70s.
It was the 80s and 90s, but even still, like the market in New Jersey where he worked, it was kind of a lower end market. The homes were not, his commissions weren't great. So even though he closed a lot of deals, money was tight. My mom, was a full-time mom, and she had a part-time job as a teacher's aide, but she really raised my brother and I. And money was just always tight. So I looked at initially at his career at real estate and said, that's really inconsistent and rough money. Like, I wouldn't want to do that.
Insecure.
By the time he started managing an office and became profitable, I was already in college. My path to music was kind of solidified. But he got into real estate.
It was definitely on the radar. You grew up. You grew up around it. So
it was on the radar. And then something really cool happened is after I graduated college and I finished teaching. When I was in a full-time entrepreneurship in the music world, my dad really wanted to get committed to investing in real estate, and he hired a coach. He paid a lot of money for that coach. But within about 2 years, he amassed a big real estate portfolio and over $100,000 of passive income every year. And I was like, wow, coaching seems awesome when you hire the right person.
Right.
He was paying this guy $1,700 a month, which I thought was an astronomical amount of money at the time. Right now, I spend over $5,000 a month on various coaching. So, but at the time, I was like, that's crazy. But I saw the results he got. So one day he invited me to Seattle, which is where his mentor at the time was based out of, for one of his events. And he was like, we could just have a little father-son time. Maybe you can check out real estate investing. And I thought to myself, it would be good to have some diversification of my income streams. But I was very nervous to hang around all these entrepreneurs. These were all real heavy hitters in the real estate investing world doing big things. And here I am, some former middle school teacher. I got my music business. I don't know anything about real estate. This was like, 7 or 8 years ago. And I was really nervous to be around them because I knew they were going to ask me, what are you trying to do in real estate? And I was going to say, well, here's what I want to do. I want to build this portfolio, maybe become an agent, maybe start a team. I haven't done anything yet. I'm super green. I don't know any of the terminology. And so for sure, we're at some like swanky rooftop bar. You got millionaires. There was a billionaire. I mean, this crazy successful people. And my dad's introducing me and they're asking me, what do you want to do in real estate? And so I tell them hesitantly, but I tell them, and I'm just waiting for people to, laugh at me or be like, oh, that's cute. Like pat me on the head or something.
Yeah, that's a teacher's lounge.
Yeah. And every single one of them said, that's amazing. You can do it. I did it. You can do it. Here's my number. How can I help you? That's inspiring. And it was the most positive feedback I ever saw. And at that moment, I said to myself, I got to hang around more people.
Right.
Like
more positive people.
Yeah. This is awesome. And that's when I just really dove into conferences and coaching. So hanging around those people expanded our minds, and then from there, to just kind of wrap up the past, my wife and I decided that life was good, but we wanted amazing, thriving abundance. We quit, she quit her teaching job. We moved over here to Austin, Texas about 4 years ago, started a real estate company. And it was for sure scary. There were some very scary moments, definitely oh my gosh,
jump on that.
Huge mistakes type of moments.
Rob, how did you pick Austin? Like leaving New Jersey, searching all the country. Did you do some research? Did you look into like opportunities, markets? Like what held you?
Yeah. So through my music business, I've traveled to pretty much every major metro area in the country.
All right.
None of them really did it for me, but my wife and I had vacation and honeymoon many times in Colorado Springs. We loved Colorado Springs. And we thought we were sure that's where we were going to relocate to. And it was always voted the number 2 place to live. That was like the number 2 place to live, Colorado Springs. And so we always vacation there in the summer. And I went there in the fall to check out the real estate market. And I was like, you know what? It's really cold. Why don't we just eliminate winter if we're going to move across the country? Let's just like not do winter anymore. And Colorado Springs always number 2 place to live. Where's number 1 place to live? Austin, Texas.
That's awesome. Okay.
And we'd never been here. So we came to Austin, Texas during her winter break. And we said, if we like it in the middle of the winter, we're going to stay here. And we came out, it was like Texas winter, right? It was like upper 50s, low 60s, jeans and a t-shirt, blue skies, green trees. We loved everything about it. And we did not want to go home. And so that's when we knew it was going to be Austin. 6 months later, we had relocated here.
So what I want to see is there a lesson or a nugget for the listener if they're contemplating or they're evaluating their current environment, wherever they are, that they just don't find the business opportunities the same, whether it's real estate or not real estate? Is there a researching type of process? So for you, some of it was a matter of the pleasure of location, weather, things of that nature. Did you do any research on the real estate side, or basically because it was ranked number 1, you kind of felt like, well, that was your leading indicator?
Yeah, I mean, it was very clear from the research that we did that it's one of the hottest real estate markets in the country.
It has been,
and some people would have said, well, there's already so many agents there. Why would you even try to compete in that market? The reality is, in any level of entrepreneurship, there's a ton of people, and most of them aren't doing a lot of work because they're not working that hard. So you can separate yourself for sure with enough time and work ethic.
Yeah.
And the impossible to fail framework.
You're barrister at Starbucks, and I'm a realtor. Well, what are you? Are you work at Starbucks or you're a realtor? Like you
right.
really can't.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure you're a great barrister at Starbucks, but are you really a good realtor? Like, you got to cut the boats, right? You got to burn the boats. You got to make the commitment. And that's
Yeah.
what
I mean,
you're
so
hearing.
for us specifically, Austin checked the boxes. It checked the real estate boxes. It was great for my music business, awesome weather, great schools for the kids. So,
Because
if
it
you're
takes
listening,
courage. I mean, that take
yeah, yeah.
you left your
Yeah.
roots, and a market, and that not everybody has that gumption too. So, you've already done more than most people in the sense of risk taking,
Yeah.
right? Planning and risk, investments and risk tolerance. But from a business perspective, you took a lot of risks and leaps of faith. And I want to make sure that we're picking up on those notes of like the gumption that you had to do all of that. So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And it might be easy now, years later. And if someone's listening to think that that was an easy decision for us, or that the transition here there was nothing easy about it. Nothing. It was tough to make the calculated decision for Katie to quit her teaching job, making 62, 63 grand a year with amazing health benefits. And we moved here with no consistent paycheck. We didn't know anyone. We were brand new to real estate. It took us 7 months to make our first commissions. Now, I got paid about 45 grand that first week of getting paid. But again, it took 7 months. We had many nights sitting on the couch in our rental, crying to each other, saying, what did we do? Like, I think did we make a huge mistake? It was hard. It was trying. It was literally the most stressful time of my life. We had a we had a gym membership at Lifetime in North Austin, and there was this like lake behind it, and we would routinely take walks around this lake, half crying, half trying to mastermind, figure out what to do, just motivating each other. I felt this 3,000 pound weight on my shoulders. It was the most stressful time of my life, but we came out on the other side. And
you had strong belief and conviction.
yes.
And I'm sure, to tie in the planning is you had a plan.
Yes.
You stuck to the plan. You might have had to modify the plan and adjust a little bit, but the core plan itself remained your path. And so therein lies the lesson.
That's right.
You got to have some sense. Rob came up with a plan that he wanted to execute. He was unwavering in his commitment. He's willing to move halfway across the country into a totally new market. But he knew if he stuck to his plan, success would come. And all right, so it took 7 months, and that's pretty darn reasonable, isn't it? I mean,
it is absolutely, and that's the definition of an entrepreneur, right? We take way greater risks than most people would do for the potential of greater rewards. I believe it is impossible to fail with the right education, implemented with massive action, relentless consistency, and given enough time. And I think way more people would be way more successful if they stayed more consistent. Because the reality is, doing anything of substance takes longer than you think it will. Launching my music business, getting in shape, winning bodybuilding shows, launching my mindset stuff, the real estate stuff, it's all been way more than I thought it would be. It's all been more time consuming, taking more action, taking more sacrifice, but it's always
that's a key word right there. Sacrifice is the key word. And unfortunately, too many of us are looking for that instant gratification. Good things come to those who wait. Wait is relative, but you can't lose 50 pounds overnight. You can't become a bodybuilder of Schwarzenegger level overnight. It takes years, dedication, decades of dedication and commitment, and closing your, eating and sacrificing the taste of good food that's not good for you.
Right.
Right. All these steps.
One of the things I talk about frequently is the price of your dreams. And if you imagine that your dream has an actual price tag. So if your dream, my dream was to go from being a middle school teacher to being a full-time entrepreneur. Eventually, I wanted to go from being a brand new agent to having a thriving team making 7 figures. Those things are very far apart. Those are way far apart. If an entrepreneur comes to me and says, I want to make an additional $500 a month of recurring revenue, that's a low price tag. We could probably figure that out in a couple days. But if someone says, I want to start a business, I want to get from here to way, way, way over there. Cool. Number one, can it be done? Undoubtedly. You can do anything you want, but realize the further your finish line is, the longer it's going to take to get there and the higher the price tag.
Right.
And the currency of which you pay for that dream is sacrifice. And that's a big umbrella, but work ethic, again, massive action, short-term sacrifice for long-term rewards. I frequently talk about here in my studio, I have these beautiful shutters and we live in a little half cul-de-sac. Very routinely, when I was building my real estate course, that took 2 years. Earth to Orbit took 2 years. It is now the most powerful on-demand real estate training course ever created, but it took 2 years. And there were many times on a Sunday, I'd look outside and see all the neighbors hanging out, drinking in the, just having little, Sunday afternoon drinks in the driveway. Everyone's talking, the kids are playing, there's music going, and it would look awesome. And I'd look out there longingly, and then I'd turn around and get back to work, because I have goals. Didn't last forever. When I was winning bodybuilding competitions, I literally went to my best friend's wedding with my own cooler of cold chicken and broccoli and said no to everything they offered me, but I won my show the next weekend. So you have to be willing to sacrifice for what you want. And in this society of instant gratification, so many people are born with instant gratification, with the cell phone in their hands, with the ability to get anything they want, to go to the grocery store, get the food you want, to get the information you want. You still can't outwork or outwit a really hefty goal with anything other than time and sacrifice. And
there's
so
no shortcuts.
There aren't. Now, I do believe the shortest path and the secret, as it were, is great coaching, great education. And this is now we've come back to the cornerstone of the impossible to fail framework. You have a hefty goal, a really hefty goal. Here's the guaranteed way to make it happen in the shortest amount of time. First, get the blueprint. Now, the blueprint is what I classify as like the coaching, the education, the path from someone that has done exactly what you're trying to do, and equally as important, has a great track record of teaching other people how to do the same thing. Now, as a teacher, I believe achieving success in something does not make you good at teaching it, right? We've all had bad teachers. And so one of my unique abilities as a mindset coach and specifically a real estate sales coach is I have the experience achieving high levels of success, but I also have the ability to teach in that way. And so you find someone, number one, that's done exactly what you're trying to do and has a great track record of teaching a lot of other people to do the same. Once you find that person, you pay them
like glue.
you pay them for their time. You pay them for the coaching. Then you implement that blueprint with massive action, relentless consistency, and given enough time. And in the book, I expand on that framework, how to implement the blueprint, how to structure your day, et cetera. But I believe that the right education implemented with massive action, relentless consistency, and time is literally impossible to fail. And you're guaranteeing that you're getting there as quick as possible. It would absolutely take you longer without that education because you're going to make mistakes that a more experienced person could tell you, don't do that. It's not, Trust me. I know it seems like I've made that mistake. Don't make that mistake. Right. And you get the blueprint to get the fast path to success. And in this world of course, we all want things as quickly as possible. The best thing you can do is get the right education and implement it as fast as you can.
As a kid, I read tons and tons of books, and I read a lot of biographies, and I'm getting my own ahas now because in it all, maybe unbeknownst, is you're just learning and reading about how people made their journeys, the mistakes that they made, the successes that they achieved, and there's lessons in there. So, you don't even need to hire a coach. Just start reading other people's biographies that might be in the space first if you're on a limited budget, and go see how, Carl Icahn or, Warren Buffett, like they put all there's no secrets. I mean, Warren Buffett, tells you how he does what he does. So, there's got to be great books out there to self-help to start, and then start somewhere, right? You may not be able to way up. You mentioned you're investing $5,000 a month. You didn't start there, so
no, I didn't. I certainly
start
didn't.
there.
No,
right,
but
you grow into
it. Yeah, my first coaching program was $1,000 for a 3-month coaching program. But in the book, in the Impossible to Fail book, I talk about where do you start and how do you find the blueprint. Anyone that is any type of coach or educator has free stuff. They have a YouTube channel. They have a book. right? There are free to very, very low ticket ways to get the education to start.
Yeah.
You leverage that, commit it. Once you start making some money, invest, right? Maybe you invest in a couple $100 course, or you just go to a seminar and you start there. As you're able to afford more, trust me, the more money you spend, first of all, higher value people charge more money because they can get you better results. But number two, there's also something that happens mentally when you spend a lot of money on education. Now, of course, you're not going to spend money you don't have, but I can tell you, I've taken zero interest credit cards to invest in coaching because I know I'm going to make that money back, and I have.
Right.
But when you pay a lot of money for a product, whether it's a course or coaching, right? My real estate course is a $3,000 course. Yet smart agents will realize, well, let's see. The average agent in Rob's program is closing 2.5 deals a month within 3 months. One closing is going to 2, 3, 4, 5 times my investment on this course. So that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So if you think about it that way, I usually say you actually get paid to spend money on education if you implement it right, because you're going to make more money as a result of it. But number two, when you pay money, something happens in your mind. You're committing a lot of resources and you go, hey, I'm going to make the most of it, right? If you were to find a world-class coach, but they were to say, hey, I'm not going to charge you anything, you're not going to implement as much as if you were.
It's skin in the game, and it's value perception. It's like me with my
That's right.
planning work over the years is people are like, well, how much is your fee to do my planning work? And then, I would get the sarcastic guy like, oh, you're missing a letter R, like free. I'm like, well, you know why it's not free? I say, because you're going to value it as free. You're going to blow off our meetings. You're not going to do the homework I told you to do, and you're not going to take it seriously. But if I charge you $1,000 or $2,000, guess what? You got skin in the game. You're showing up for the meetings. You're going to do the homework, and we're going to be collaborating. If it's free, I'm doing all the work. I'm running all the risk, and you go run and go somewhere else. But what you touched on, and I had it here, and I think we kind of did, is, what would you tell the listener today who's sitting on the fence? And so I'll answer it, is you basically said zero interest credit card, borrow some money. Look, we started this business 2.5 years ago, our insurance entity, borrowing money from some of my fraternity brothers. We talk about on other episodes of, what happened to us and losing our business and having to start over a few years later. And literally the first thing I invested in was getting involved in an insurance coaching community, because I was all in on insurance now. I was only partially in insurance as a financial advisor. It was part of my business, but there were other aspects I didn't know. And, oh, by the way, I got a few laps around the sun than most people out there. So there was a lot I didn't know in the social media and technology world. And so it opened up the doors, and then the dots that got connected lead me. Somebody in that group introduced me and encouraged me to go to an event, and I invested $500 in that event and went to Texas in the middle of COVID. And guess who's the keynote? A gentleman by the name of Coach Michael Burt. So if I don't join that group, another agent in there encourages me to go to that event, and at that event, there comes Coach Burt, who I've then invested $25,000 with. Since then. So that $5,000 investment leading to a $500 workshop. And then over the 2 years, putting over $25,000 into the programs and events with Coach Burt, which got me into Brad Lee, got me to meet you and dozens and dozens of other people that I've collaborated with. And the doors and opportunities just continue to open. And so you just don't know where that leads. And so, folks, if you're on the fence, the question is, do you have the commitment? And I'll use Rob's word earlier, are you willing to sacrifice what it needs to be done to get there? But do you have a plan? Whether it's Rob's plan, Bruce's plan, your own plan, whatever it is, people have blueprints. So Rob, on your platform, Earth to Orbit, you share blueprints. Tell us more about Earth to Orbit.
So specifically, and just real quick, I just want to piggyback off of what you said. If someone's sitting on the fence about starting a business or going more all in on their business, I believe there is a guarantee that will, again, make it impossible to fail. And I believe that guarantee is yourself. You I think if you're hesitant, then you're not confident enough in your own work ethic.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
To make a commitment. If you have a dream and a strong purpose behind your dream, well, then failure is not an option. The one X factor that you don't always have control over is how long is it going to take to get to that point. But again, when you invest in some education and the right support, you're making sure it's the shortest amount of time. Now, as an example, I said I spend $5,000 a month. Now, part of that, was a more recent investment. I recently went to a conference for a company called Pinnacle Global Network that specializes in teaching, 7-figure business owners how to become 8-figure business owners, 8 become 9. And in order to invest in their coaching, it's 25 to 30 grand a year, depending on if you do pay in full or a payment plan. And so I opted for the payment plan, $2,500 a month. And for sure, there was some hesitation there. But I thought to myself, well, it's not like I need to pay. I could pay all this money up front. I'd rather not. And so if there's a 0 interest credit card, which is literally the same as paying all the money up front, I'm just going to spread it out over 12 months, 18 months, whatever the terms of the card are. The question is, engaging in this company who I spent 3 days at this event, they have testimonials, I've done my research, they're legit, they're badasses. Am I confident enough in my ability to make at least an additional 30 grand over the next year as a result of what I'm learning here? If I don't make an additional, mid 6 figures in the next year as a result of what I'm learning here, I'm messing up. So am I going to be able to make that, at least my investment back over the next 12 months? Heck yeah. Like I'd have to really try hard not to. So then it was a no-brainer for me to say, all right, I'll just apply for another 0 interest credit card. I'm going to pay it off for sure. I'm going to make that money and it's going to be awesome. And guess what? It's working really fast. And so, but again, I had to ask myself, am I committed to being an entrepreneur? Am I committed to taking that risk? And part of the thing is you become more successful. Sometimes now that you don't have nothing to lose anymore and you've built something substantial, it's like you almost want this guarantee, like, well, I want to know it's going to work. You never know for sure, right? But again, as long as you have the confidence in yourself that you're willing to do whatever it takes, yes, get off the fence, make a commitment. Make a commitment.
Well, self-confidence, self-esteem, the self-talk, head trash, all that stuff. And again, there's a difference why there's the 1% and the 99%. And there's a reason why there's the 80-20 rule. So, it's not for everybody. Think about how many school teachers you were working with and you're the one crab that got out.
Yep.
Right. And
they tried to push me down.
They tried.
My arms off.
Right. Right. So, for those who are just embarking on or considering doing, the lessons Rob and I are trying to give you is if you've got conviction, you have to take the leap of faith. You could do it with a small amount of money, a large amount of money. You want to do your homework. You want to find people that have the blueprints. Rob shared a couple of real key pieces with us. What price and what sacrifice are you willing to pay to have your dreams? If you don't believe it, who else is going to believe it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, real quick to get to your question on Earth to Orbit, that's the ultimate blueprint for residential real estate agents. So if you happen to be a residential real estate agent listening to this, I specialize in helping 5-figure agents become 6-figure agents. The agent that's closing deals this month, no deals next month. You're awake at night wondering, how can I duplicate the success I had recently? Or how can I be more consistent at this? Because I'm tired of being on this transactional roller coaster where I close a couple deals and have nothing in the pipeline and I got to start over again. How do I establish consistency? How do I scale my income without scaling my time? That is what Earth to Orbit teaches you. It's the ultimate on-demand answer to that question. And, a couple great things that make Earth to Orbit way different than any other coaching program out there is number one, it's all on-demand, interactive videos. Agents are busy. Some agents have another job that they're trying to transition out of. So my course, when you take my course, allows you to hop online anytime at earthtoorbittraining.com. You can hop on those videos anytime. Number two, I'm a master educator. So I have the real estate experience to back it up, but I also have the teaching experience and created this educational system for you to use. Number three, the average agent that implements this course is adding over $9,700 in new commissions every single month, starting in month 3. It is a proven system that has helped agents all over the country. So if you're listening to this and you happen to be a real estate agent that really wants to establish consistency in your lifestyle and income, then you need to go to earth-to-orbit-training.com and you really need to consider making a commitment to yourself.
And let's invest in
yourself.
yourself.
The best decision you've ever made.
And clearly a new agent altogether, not necessarily somebody just having already started going, but somebody who's brand new can benefit from jumping on that course and learning.
I mean, that the brand new agent would be literally the best person to take this course. The thing I have found, and there are exceptions to the rule, because I work with hundreds of agents all over the country. Most brand new agents have a scarcity mindset.
Sure.
Where, first of all, they're bombarded with real estate, quote unquote, coaches. The barista behind Starbucks is a real estate coach, right? Like the guy driving the Uber is a real estate coach, right? So there's a lot to choose from. And they have the wrong mindset about money. As an example, last week I spoke to someone that was interested in taking the course, and I said, and they were a new agent. And I said, how much money do you want to make next year? They said, at least $400,000. And I said, wow, that's an aggressive goal. I love your mindset.
Scarce.
And we talked about it. And I said, well, the good news is my course is only $3,000 and you can even pay as low as $300 a month. And they said, wow, that's a lot of money. And I couldn't, like, you just said you want to make $400,000 and you think $300 a month is a lot of money? Are you what? Especially, and they didn't understand that, look, you can pay in full. One deal is going to 2, 3, 4, 5 times X your investment. It would be impossible not to close a deal in the next month, from this education. So if you're a new agent that has the right mindset, this course was literally perfect for new agents. Most agents, it takes them a couple deals to realize, number one, the potential that being a real estate agent can have, but number two, quickly building up the frustration of, I want more of this. I just got the biggest paycheck I've ever gotten in my life, and I want to do it again and again and again and again, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a month. That's usually when people are mentally ready to take the course.
Well, they took the training wheels off. The difference is somebody who's got the training wheels, they're still afraid. But go back to the scarcity side of things. The biggest driving force for me to work with a client has to do with their budget. Whether they make $1 million a year, $100,000 a year, $10,000 a year, if they don't understand their budget and where there's money going, they're never going to reach their goals and objectives because they're just hemorrhaging money. And so for somebody like this who says, I want to make $400,000 in real estate, well, what's your budget to invest in yourselves? Well, I need $300 a month. Well, that's too much money. Okay, well, let's look at how many times you're eating out. You're going to Chipotle, or whether you're going to Ruth Chris, you're going to Starbucks, like, what kind of car you're driving. Like, again, we're back to that sacrifice word of like,
that was probably your alcohol bill last month.
Right. These kids, I'm sure it was a younger person in that sense where they're out partying with their friends and they're living paycheck to paycheck and there's no money. So all of a sudden come up with $300. But, at the core, it's like, dude, what's your budget? Like, where's your money going? And let me show you where you can find $300 to invest in this course. Or as you just said, and maybe it's an affiliate program for you, is get a credit card company linked in to your platform. Right. And I don't know if Lightspeed does that or anybody else.
We're actually interviewing a couple financing programs right now. I do think a zero interest credit card is the best option because, again, you're not being charged additional to kind of defer that cost. But as an example, you said new agents, and to give a clear proof of concept to the impossible to fail framework. One of my who's become a good friend now, his name is Matt Solis. He's up in Dallas, Texas. I'm here in Austin. Towards the end of the summer, it was like September last year, 2022, he was a full-time teacher and he had just got his license, and a mutual friend connected us. And he said, man, I want to get into real estate full-time. I would love for this to be my last year teaching. Do you think I can do it? And I was very transparent. I said, well, yes, absolutely. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. It's going to take more sacrifice than you probably think it will. But I guarantee you, my education and your implementation can get you there. Well, this recording, we're in middle of June 2023. A couple weeks ago, he put in his notice. He quit his teaching job.
There you go.
He's made a ton of money. June 2023, he told me the other day, is going to be a $50,000 month for him. So he's going to make more this month than he made in a year of teaching, right? So because as a brand new agent from day one, he got the blueprint and implemented it right away.
Look, you can swim at the deep end, or you could swim at the shallow end, and the question is, do you need the fins and the buoys, right? And so you want to take your training wheels off as fast as possible. Rob's sharing with you the necessity of getting a blueprint, not struggling. Brad Lee's got the book, Lessons I Learned, so you don't have to, right? So learn from others' failures and mistakes, people, and therein lies the lessons that you can take away and say, well, you know what? I don't want to do it that way. I don't want to do it that way. This way looks pretty good. And you got to cut your own path, and you got to be willing to fall down and brush yourself off. And Rob, have you had failures in life? I know I've had failures in life.
Man.
Did it make you better? Right? Did you crumble, or look where you are? You learned from those. And that's the point is folks, another one of my lines is life. No one gets out alive. Okay. Life. No one gets out alive. So there's going to be bumps and bruises along the way. Now there's people who are afraid to fall down. There are people who are afraid to fail, and they'll stay in their little safety end zone, if you will, of life. And that's fine. The world needs those people too. And then there's those who are the risk takers, and the risk takers will be rewarded, and they will make the sacrifices. And you and I swim at that end of the swimming pool with other risk takers who understand the benefit and the reward that comes from it. And the reward's not always financial. It's not always financial. You're getting reward in helping other agents. Look how you just got so excited with your buddy making the 50 grand because you helped him cross that path.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
It wasn't whether or not he bought your course and you made a couple of shekels out of it. Is you were excited for his success. You felt fulfilled. And that therein lies part of the messaging in our deliverables here. I don't make any money from doing this show, but I'm constantly getting people who are saying that was very informative. I got my kids listening to the show. You're helping us increase, and eliminate financial literacy out there. And how can we get that message out more? So, it's a loss leader in the sense of things. Like, I'm not doing it because, I get paid every time I run the show. No, I want to have people on like Rob who can inspire you, whether you're in the real estate mode or thinking of getting in the real estate mode. But in general, he's got the framework, the notion, the ideology that it is impossible to fail no matter what your business line is if you have strong action, right? As you said, undying action, massive, what'd you call it? Massive
action, relentless consistency, and time. The 3-part equation makes it impossible to fail.
Impossible. We're going to leave it there. Rob Stein, thank you so much for being with us. We've got your info in the show notes. It's Rob Stein Enterprises, Rob at robstein.com. Give it one more time. Earth to Orbit.
Yeah, Earth to Orbit training.com. And gang, if you're in that stage where you're like, I don't have money to invest in the course, but I want to learn, go to robstein.tv. That's STEIN. Check out my YouTube channel, man. I got hundreds of videos on there. It's just come and learn, and let's get better together.
Start there. Folks, this has been another episode of Ask the Planman. Again, I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein. Remember, when you need some advice, always get it right. Come Ask the Planman. Hit us up. Please like, share, subscribe. Go to robstein.tv. Go to planman.tv. Hit that share button. Let people know about me and Rob. Rob, thank you so much for being with us. Folks, until next time, we'll see you. Thanks for being with us.
When you need some advice, never sacrifice, always get it right. Ask the Planman. Finance, insurance, and more.